I wanted to go back to TikTok. I mean, clearly the focus here has been on TikTok and Huawei before that. And I was wondering why exactly the level of focus on them. Is it because of stock-specific, management-specific things at those companies that you don't trust? Or should we expect that if any Chinese company gets to that scale of penetration in the Western world, in the US, that they would also start to go into the phase where the US would want to try and ban them? Is it any Chinese company that has that sort of reach?
That's a great and important question. We haven't focused on any particular company. We've focused on technologies and the Chinese Communist Party. Our focus has not been to go after any Chinese company because of their commercial success. It's been to go after Chinese Communist Party entities or commercial entities being driven by the Chinese Communist Party that present national security risks to the United States of America. So your question says, will there be other companies that follow? I hope not. I hope the Chinese Communist Party will disconnect and not operate the way they do. But to the extent, and I anticipate this will be the case, that they continue to demand that every state-owned enterprise, every Chinese company is beholden to their security apparatus, then we'll continue to go after them to make sure that the American people have the security levels that they have an expectation of with respect to not only technology firms, but every company operating here in the United States.
And Mr. Secretary, there's a lot of talk about obviously not just selling the US part of TikTok, but it tends to be reported as plus Canada, plus New Zealand, plus Australia, and that those four countries' exposure of TikTok would be what is carved out and sold off. Why those four countries? If it's Five Eyes, why isn't the UK part of it? If it's non-Chinese US allies, why isn't Europe part of it?
I appreciate that. Look, I don't want to talk about the commercial transaction. I want to talk about protecting Americans. So that's our effort. Our effort is to make sure that when you have networks, you have information that passes across international networks all across the world. We are attempting to identify where those risks are, where these untrusted vendors might operate, and making sure that we take that risk down. And that's the mission set. That's the mission set in our conversations with TikTok. It's our conversations with every Chinese company that is connected to the Chinese security apparatus. Your listeners have to know, this is a serious effort. This is a serious risk. President Trump is serious about making sure we protect our information, our networks, and the American people.
Mr. Secretary, there's you're busy. You probably didn't get to see a lot of the convention. I don't know if you saw Vice President Biden's speech last night, but just as an American, I'm trying to figure out if Joe Biden were to win the presidency, what happens with the sanctions? Do they go back off? Do we try to resurrect that deal that the Europeans seem to want to cling to that we had with Iran? What happens with China? What should we expect? Although as you know, have they mentioned China at all during the convention? I'm not sure where they stand on that, but regimes do change. What would the future look like, do you think, Mr. Secretary?
I'll just take them at their word. They have completely ignored the threat from the Chinese Communist Party, not only during their convention, but for the 8 years that they were in office. So if history is a predictor of how they'll behave, the Chinese Communist Party would welcome the departure of the national security team that's surrounding President Trump that is aimed squarely at protecting the American people. We can do what we can do on our time in service, our time on our watch. We'll keep after it.
What would you foresee in terms of Iran? I mean, that deal is not salvageable, is it?
It's the right question. I can't imagine that it would. It's not salvageable, not because of anything that we did. It's not salvageable because this is a regime that's engaged in terror for 40 years now. This is a regime that continues to build out its nuclear capabilities. This is a regime that improves its missile program even during the time that this nuclear deal was in place. This is a regime that threatens Europe. It's conducted dozens and dozens of efforts inside of Europe to kill people. I hope the Europeans, I hope the whole world will come to see that it's not enough to say, boy, you wish the arms embargo were extended, but to actually take actions that will deliver security outcomes for their people. I can't imagine any administration that would see it any different from President Trump with respect to securing the American people from the threat from the Islamic Republic of Iran.
Let's look at the flip side. Let's say the president wins re-election. What should China think about listing companies here, or IPOs, or Alibaba, or any of the other Huawei? What do we do with to ensure that we have chips and materials from Taiwan? I mean, do we become closer to Taiwan. They wouldn't like that.
This is really easy. If the Trump administration has 4 more years, the Chinese Communist Party should begin to behave like a normal nation with respect to their economic activity around the world. They should allow the United States to invest in China on the same terms that Chinese companies can invest in the United States. They should conduct trade relationships in a way that are fair and reciprocal. They should put tariffs on that are balanced and even. They shouldn't steal our stuff, jobs from places like my home in Kansas, where manufacturers invent things, create things, patent things, and then the Chinese Communist Party just rips them off and then turns around and sells them back to us in a subsidized way. If we're on watch for 4 more years, we will continue to urge the Chinese Communist Party to simply engage in economic activity on a fair and level playing field. That'd be a good outcome. We think it's a great outcome for the Chinese people. We know it's the right outcome for the American people.